Right, okay, what I want to do today is discuss the hot topic of the moment, which is shallow the shaft. And I want to show you some of the things that I've experienced with trying to do this and how I probably would do it and how I probably train it and teach it as well. So come on, let's go do this. So I want to talk to you today about shallowing the shaft, okay, and what does that actually mean? I think in my 20 plus years of being a teacher and playing golf, I think you'll find it's been misinterpreted and so on and so forth. Now, before the comment box gets really hot and before I start getting told you don't know what you're talking about and so on, number one, I've been there, done it. I've tried everything in the book. I'm not one of those teachers who says, right, my method is the only way of doing it and everybody else needs to do exactly the same thing. I'm actually happy to go out there and try these things out. Now, the only problem is though, I've spent time doing these things and it's sent me backwards probably a few years of where I need to be. Probably caused me a few injuries that I didn't really necessarily need. And it's something that I think, you know, do you know what? There's different methods out there. There's different ways of doing it. There's loads of different ways to swing this golf club. Go out and do them. If you think it's going to work for you, then there's nothing stopping you doing it. All I can do is pass on my words of wisdoms of what I've been through and what I've experienced in trying to do these things and trying to get the club onto a shallower path. What is it and why is it important? All right, so why do we want to shallow the shaft? All right, so we want to try and get the club head approaching really on a shallower plane or path to the ball, okay? What we don't want is a really steep angle, okay? This can cause slices and pulls and so on and so forth, and also cause mishits on the face as well. We want to try and get the club head to approach and to come in on a very shallow angle to the ball, and also on the correct curvature or the correct path of the swing as well, all right? And, and there's loads of different ways to do that. All right, and I'm not saying whether one's right or one's wrong, but that's really what we're sort of looking at. We're trying to get the club head to move on a shallower path to the ball, so that it comes in and applies its force directly behind the ball and at the ball, and obviously gives us acceleration. And how you do that, again, as I keep saying, you know, it's entirely up to you, but I can only give you what I would do. So what's the current trend at the moment and what's going on in the market, okay, in the teaching industry, is that once you get to the top of the backswing, by the way, I don't believe there is a top of the backswing, and that'll be a different video all about transitioning. But at some point, the club head's at a point where it looks like it stops or stalls. That's the inertia, and that's the momentum of the club pulling the club that way, and I want to be going this way, all right? And that's what creates lag and so on. But what will also happen as well, because my club head is always moving away from the ball, is it wants to continue on that way, and then also it wants to go down this way because of gravity, all right? So what people are trying to get us to do nowadays is to lay the club down in a flat, shallow angle, okay? They're trying to get us into this position here so that we're coming in on a shallow path, all right? The issues that you generally get with this that I've found though in the past is that the club face gets open. So what's the cure for that? Well, let's try and bow the wrist to square the face up. So this wrist is now bowed, okay? And then from here, you then got to add in loads of rotation to try and square the blade up to the target, all right? Now, I can't disagree that it's not a speed producer because the club head's got to come back out again. The club head can't continue on this way. The club head's got to come out and then back round, and that's a speed producer, all right? Level of control that you have over that for the average golfer, it's up to you. You've got to build strength and training into all this. And also, it's hard to time up, in my opinion, as well, to get that correct, all right? So the things that you've got to add in when you're doing this, you've got to add in lateral bends, right lateral bend, also squatting down. You've got to get the club head behind you here and bow the wrist to try and get you into that position here to then push off, okay? Yes, again, you will use the ground and so on. I've tried it, done it, okay? It just didn't suit me. I actually spent probably 2 or 3 years trying to perfect this sort of inside shallow path. It didn't work. Quite a lot with the good players, and I'm teaching online, is that they have a tendency to get the club caught behind them and it's trailing and then they're having to stall the hips and stall the body to try and catch the face up, and that's when they cause a flip or overuse of the hands to try and hit it, because if they don't, they just hit it miles right, or worst case scenario, shank it. The other thing is as well, once you start to shallow the club and the momentum goes this way, this will cause the hands and arms to go that way. Okay, so the weight of the club will force the shaft to go that way. It's like a U shape. All right, so as I'm coming down, my hands start to move out towards the target, or towards the ball, this way. All right, and that comes through with the weight of the club. You've then got to try and manage that by adding in more bend, side bends, and manage the face to try and correct that. It's just a lot of complications for a very unnecessary move, really, to be honest with you. If you've got control of the arms, you can pull the arms down and swing in on the inside line. It's just I'll try and do it. I'll probably hurt myself doing it, but I'm going to swing up here. I'm going to shallow the shaft, bow the wrist, and try to swing through from there. It's not very comfortable, to be honest with you. So that's what we're seeing on the market at the moment. So it's really easy to try and get trapped into the usual trends that are going on. All I'm saying is, yeah, you've got to experiment doing them, but don't get too hung up on them if they don't work. You know, don't think, oh, this is what I've got to do. This is really important. I've got to stay on this. I've got to make sure that I'm practicing this and getting this down pat. If it's not working for you, stop it, right? Don't do it anymore. Try something else. There's loads of different ways to do it. There's loads of great teachers on Instagram, YouTube's, loads of different ideas, okay, that you can do to try and shallow this club correctly in an efficient manner, all right? So that's really what we're sort of seeing on the market now, is this laying of the club down. Just to recap it, laying of the shaft down is deemed to be that you're shallowing it, and then you've got to pull the club through, okay? Yes, it's a speed producer, I can't deny that, but it's very hard to time up, and it's very hard to get it accurately correct every time, all right? So it's really important that we try and work on that, and I like to try and just free my swing up a bit more now, and get the club head's momentum working for me as opposed to against me, all right? So I feel that when I allow the club head to go behind me, the momentum's working against me, and I'm having to work doubly hard to get it back in front. If I can just get the momentum of the club to release correctly at the right time, okay, I can swing the club down on the right path. Actually, if anything, my path is generally too much into out. Okay, because I've spent so long at trying to do it. I'm generally, 3 or 4 degrees into out, or swinging to the right. If anything, as good players generally do, I'm trying to swing it more to the left, if anything, and that's what I'm generally finding. So we're going to work in the next sort of scene on actually making sure we teach you and show you how I like to see the club head being shallowed, and then we'll work it from there. All right, so come on, let's carry on. Okay, so you're probably thinking now, okay, smart aleck, what do you actually do then? All right, and for me, you're right, I'm trying to swing the club on a shallower plane, all right, and I don't do that via the club head or the shaft. I do it with my arms. So as my arms are going up to the top of my backswing, or top of the end of the backswing area here, I then want the arms to then shallow. So my club is going, my arms go back on one route and then come back down on another route. So my arms actually change path, all right? So I'm going to go up from the top here, and then my arms route. So my arms actually have an effect of going back and change. So they're actually going up, and my arms feel like they come downwards as opposed to going outwards, all right? So I go up on one path, and then I come down on a different path. There's two things that really govern that. So one is my arms change path, but that's really governed as well by my pelvis, okay, or my hips. So when I swing back, or when I make a golf swing, as my arms go up, what happens is, as I'm getting to about here somewhere in my backswing, so as I'm going to about here somewhere, my pelvis starts to move in, so move to the left-hand side, okay, starts moving towards the target, and this then puts a slight tilt in my torso here, so my spine is actually slightly tilted back because I'm moving my pressures up into my left leg. I can feel pressure being put into my left leg here, so I'm going up to here, I'm putting pressure into my left leg, and this then kick-starts my arms to go back down on a different path. So my pelvis is going this way, and this then makes my arms come down on a different path, or a shallower path, if that makes sense. So it's a two-way thing really. I'm moving up into my left leg from here, because then from here I can then push the hips back, and that's going to then bring the club down into the right path. All right, so just from this sort of view, as I go to about here somewhere, my hips start to push up, or I'm pushing the pressure into my left leg on the backswing, into my left leg here, and then this puts my arms into a shallower plane. So I go from up here and here, up and in here. Okay, I can then, from this position here, I can then bring the hands downwards. I can also bring the club out over top of my hands earlier. Okay, this is releasing the club head earlier. Okay, I can release them up earlier so I don't get the momentum of the club caught behind me. All right, and I'll talk about momentum at another point. But really, so the feeling from here for me is really the torso or the pelvis starts to move forward, my body stays and gives me this slight kink, my shoulders stay turned, and this puts my arms on a shallower plane. So I'm going to go up and down like so. And I'm in a position here, in a nice hitting position here, where I can now push into my off my left leg. This can help me to then accelerate and then fire through to the shot. And this brings me in on a nice shallow path to the ball. Even though my club is coming out over top of my hands, it's still swinging in that curve or the correct circular motion of the swing, and I'm not coming from out over the top. The issue that you see a lot of golfers do is you see a lot of them turn this way, so the pelvis actually fires too soon this way, and the right shoulder comes out as well. So ideally from here we want the pelvis to feel as though it's moving and kicking this way, and this will then drop the hands in the right path to then swing towards the target. So it's really important you understand that's how I do mine, all right? And so this means that the club head never goes behind me, it's always in front or in line with my hands. To me, it feels like I'm going like this with the club head, and I'm pushing my hips this way. That's how I feel when I do it, because I'm getting the momentum of the club to come from here to that, back down in front and through. The reality is once you add in body speeds and so on and so forth, I'm probably pitching into the right path and the right position that you'd probably see in, you know, P6s or whatever it is that people use nowadays. And it's really important you understand that. So that's how I do mine. It's a subtle little move, but I try to do it and get the club head swinging on the right path towards the target, so I don't allow the club head to get stuck behind me. I don't want to shallow the shaft, is the real story of this. I want to actually have the shaft almost feel like it's upright on the way down. It won't be upright, it won't be here, it'll probably be about here somewhere. But that's all done by my arms feeling as though I'm dropping and then I'm pushing through. I'm using the momentum to try and kick start the club into the back of the ball. All right, so it's a up, down and through. And that's the feeling that I'm getting when I'm doing this. So up and through, all right? You can take your time doing it, don't have to be rushed, but that's the sort of feeling that we're gonna gain. Well, this is the sort of swing that we want to be getting when we're practicing this, is the feeling of the club head working down and into the back of the ball. My club head just actually comes here and runs into the ball through the momentum of the swing and the momentum of the club head, not through me actually trying to shallow the shaft, all right? So I'm just gonna go from here, back and through from there, okay? And that's what I tend to do. That's the feeling that I get that I'm trying to create when I'm trying to shallow the club or the shaft, all right? So drill number one, okay? Drill number one is making sure that we get this pelvis to work correctly, as we just said before, this slight movement, this slight glide towards the target, all right? So the way that we're going to practice this is, it's a drill that I've done before, and it's a drill that I don't apologize for, which is the right foot back, all right? So what we need to do is get the right hip out the way, which is number one rule. But once it's out the way, for the first part of the club head's journey down, I want it to stay out the way, all right? I want it to stay back, and I want it actually move in towards the target. Imagine there was like a wall, I was pressed up against the wall. It's like I'm actually sliding my butt cheek along that wall for as long as I possibly can to then push off when I swing, when the club head gets to about here somewhere, then I can push off and create acceleration. So what we're going to do here, drill number one, is the right foot back, all right? But we're going to do it slightly differently. So instead of just hitting shots with the right foot back, I want you to get a feeling as you swing back, keep the right hip back as you hit the ball, but I want you to get a feeling of the foot rolling onto its side, okay? So as I roll through, you can see how my sole of my shoe is coming up, but I'm keeping my heel down on the ground. I'm not going to allow this toe for the heel to come off the ground and up onto my toe. I'm going to want it to push this way. This is going to kink my leg in towards my other leg, and this is going to just sort of push the pelvis that way. So if I stand this way doing it, put my right foot back, as I swing through, I'm going to push that right hip back, and I'm just going to feel that right leg just push onto its side. This is just going to help me just to kink in and keep that right hip back. So as the club head's coming down to hit the ball, it's just staying back, and I'm in this position here. Then I can push off my left leg, and then my right hip can come out and forward to meet the left. All right. So here and back, and that's really what I'm after. All right. Now that little movement here, what I don't want to do though is have, like I said, come up onto the toe. All right. So all you got to do from here is quite simply set up to the ball, right foot back, left foot forward just a little bit, and you're just going to get that feeling of that just kicking in forward here like so. Just roll in. Don't have to go for power here. Don't really want to get too much power or too much effort into this. You can swing at 50-60% speed if you want to, and just get that real feeling of just pushing off that and hitting through. All right. Key is to try and keep that right heel down on the ground when you do this. All right. So just swing back and through. You can see how that stayed on the ground. My heel's still down here. I pushed back into that and swung through, and that's how I'm going to get that club heads traveling in on the right path or on a shallower plane. All right. So just get that feeling. So I'm just going to get that feeling of swing, push in like so. All right. So back and through. All right. Just a little practice there. You can just do that as a practice drill. Once you get the feel for doing that, then all you got to do is then stand at a ball normal stance, your normal sort of stance here, and you're going to try to create that with the right hip staying back and pushing towards the target. All right. So you're just going to swing back and through. And that's going to help you to just bring the club head in on a different shallower plane and then swing down towards the target line. All right. It's worth giving a go. Drill number 2. Okay, how the arms work. All right. And this is an exercise drill that I do. I do this actually quite a lot, to be fair, because one of the things I want to create is my shoulders staying loose, okay, in my shoulder socket, okay. I want them to be able to move and to separate and swing independently of my body, all right. And I want them to be able to swing freely, all right. And we see a lot of golfers, they actually will tend to use the body to steer the club head through instead of allowing the arms to swing through past the torso. That's what creates club head speed, all right. And it's the effects of the body stalling and pushing and so on that helps to stabilize that path going around. Now, one of the exercises, drills that you can do, sorry, pick the card up there, is to practice just swinging the arms back, but then just feel as though once you get the arms to the top of their backswing, just feel as though they just drop. All right, so it's going to go up and drop, up, drop. All right, and that's a really key thing. I'm just allowing gravity just to let them drop. All right, you can then take hold of a golf club. You don't need a ball to start with, but you can just make a swing where you just feel as though the club goes up and drop. All right, I'm going to allow the club head to swing through first and almost swing my body around, okay, and not the other way around, okay. So I'm going to allow the arms just to swing very freely while they're still turned in that position here, and just drop down to hit the ball. All right, so I'm going to swing up, and swing through. All right, the club head will swing through on a nice path. It will swing in quite shallow to the ball. As long as I keep my body turned and I don't use my body, that's the real key to this one. All right, so I'm just going to swing up, drop it down, and just feel my arms just freely drop to hit the ball. All right, I'd be surprised actually how well, it surprises me every time I do this one at how well I actually strike the ball. So back and through, okay. I haven't really even used my body much, to be fair. Let's have a look at that one. Yeah, okay, look, 144 total distance. Path was out, yeah, you can see it if you want. So 144 total distance, 78 miles an hour club head speed, but 1.9 degrees out to the right hand side. All right, the club face was a little closed on that one, hence why it's gone left. Smash factor was 1.34. So my path is coming in at a right angle. Angle of attack is 4 degrees. Okay, 4 degrees down. So can't grumble with that. That's not bad for me. Considering that all I'm doing there is just swinging my arms. I'll get told off for that by some do-gooder on Instagram or YouTube telling me that, you know, you have to use the torso and so on. I ain't disagreeing with that. You do have to use the torso to help stabilize the club head swinging around me. But really ideally from here, so I just want to get a feeling of the arms swinging independently, and that's how you're going to get that. There's 2 key things that we talked about, which was the pelvis movement and the arms dropping down. The pelvis, remember, is what really makes the arms swing on a different path, if you remember. All right. Once you get that right, and you can feel that really working, then you can try and blend that into a proper golf swing. So back and through, and just enjoy the shots as they fly off down the middle of the fairway. Right. Thank you so much for watching that video. I hope it's clarified a few things for you. Shallow the shaft, all right, it's a big topic at the moment out there on the interweb. And I hope that my advice is going to help you out. With my one, it's all about efficiency of movement, okay, and being more effective. And adding in all these variables, which have, you know, of shallow the shaft, bend it right down, bend the left wrist over, or flex this wrist, and then add in right lateral bend, and then loads of shoulder movement or body turn. It's fine. If you're athletic enough to be able to do it and you can do that, you're a better golfer than me. But please give it a go. Give me some comments in the box below there of anything else that you think about this video. But also please remember, thank you for subscribing. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already, and also remember to hit that like button down there. And what I want to do is catch you at the next one.